Hello and welcome to this edition of Business Today, an half-hour business program that intends to serve you with all you need to know concerning business around you. Let's talk about money market, the capital market, oil and gas sector, manufacturing, telecommunication, aviation, maritime, insurance, real estate and properties, and a host of others. It's a program that will be coming your way every Tuesday of the week to spice up your appetite for the rest of the week. Always keep a date with me on Business Today and you will not regret your time spent. In this edition, we shall be looking at the activities of the players in the manufacturing sectors and as it concerns AFCFTA, the federal government efforts on the insurance sector, and our focus this week will be on the high-level roundtable discussion on industrialization put together by MAN. I am Abiola Ismail. First, the headlines. President Buhari tasked insurance firms on diversification. Federal government inaugurates committee to review Petroleum Industry Act. Roundtable on industrialization in Africa. MAN profiles insight to AFCFTA gains. FG says nation's GDP grew by 5% in second quarter of 2021. Lagos government meets business owners, pledges secured business environment. Let's go for a short break. When we come back, we'll give you details of the whole reports. Stay tuned. Welcome back. President Muhammadu Buhari has urged insurance firms in Nigeria to take advantage of the federal government efforts to facilitate growth of the non-oil sector of the economy through innovation. The president also commended them for the role they played in encouraging medical practitioners to tackle spread of COVID-19. Speaking in Abuja at a virtual opening ceremony of the 47th African Insurance Organization AIO Conference and Annual General Assembly, President Buhari said the insurance sector will play a vital role in the diversification of the economy by bringing necessary stabilities, economic sustainability, revenue generation, job creation, and financial inclusiveness. President Buhari said the theme of the conference, Rebuilding Africa's Economy and Insurance Perspective, was apt and well thought out to respond to the reality of the moment as many governments try to diversify indigenous ways to manage their economy in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. The president noted that the COVID-19 pandemic presented a global challenge which led to lockdown of many countries, travel restrictions, and issuance of many health protocols affecting all human, social, and economic interactions that made hosting of the conference impossible in 2020.
These challenges affected all human, social, and economic interactions that could have made the hosting of the conference impossible last year. Coronavirus is still a serious challenge in many countries across the globe. However, adequate protocols have been put in place to curb its spread, and vaccination is in progress. We understand as a government and nation the need to frontally tackle some of the disruption to our social, economic, and health occasioned by the pandemic by putting in place sufficient measures that allow the system to function. I once again use this opportunity to commend the Nigerian insurance industry for identifying with the government through the provision of life insurance set of packages for frontline medical and paramedical personnel in the course of this fight. Your support and solidarity in these times is highly appreciated. The theme of your conference is very apt and well thought out, rebuilding Africa's economy and insurance perspective.
The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeniyi Adebayo, has inaugurated a technical committee to review the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 and its implication on the statutory responsibilities of its ministry. This was disclosed in a statement issued by the Minister's Special Advisor on Media, Ifedayo Shayo. The statement titled, Ministry Inaugurates Technical Committee on Petroleum Acts. It noted that the committee headed by the ministry's Director, Legal Services, Mohammed Hassan, will, among other things, review the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 and its implication on the industry and gas export permits being issued to exporters by Committee for Economic Development. The committee is also saddled with responsibility of suggesting appropriate strategy to use in bringing the NESA scheme to the ministry, since the scheme is about export, which is a core mandate of the ministry. At the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria's Roundtable on Industrialization in Africa, themed Positioning African Industries for Economic Transformation and Continental Free Trade to commemorate the 50 years of MAN establishment, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo re-emphasized the need for complementary policies for industrial transformation, especially in the context of the Free Trade Agreement. Professor Osinbajo explained that there is the strong need to guard against the security challenges in the continent, as the free movement of people across the continent needed to be checked. He said business people and tourists from outside the continent to travel within Africa, and this needs to change, especially as security and related concerns can now be addressed with technology, including improvements in travel documentation and maintenance of digital database. On its part, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, Adebayo Adeniyi, noted that the federal government has opened discussion with the Petroleum Ministry on how to make gas available in large quantity for utilization of the players in the manufacturing industry. The Director General of MAN, Segun Ajayi Quadri, said the AFCFTA will open opportunities for wider utilization of the resources endowments of the continents, efficient production, system, and competitiveness enhancement. Ajayi Quadri emphasized that the continental trade regime will create a common consumer base and market worth over 1.2 billion naira and $3 trillion market, respectively, when it's fully enhanced.
Before I conclude, let me emphasize that some complementary policies are required for industrial transformation, especially in the context of the free trade agreements. Free movement, including the right of establishment, will create the necessary framework for businesses to widen their operations across the sub-region and thereby deepen regional value chains. So I call on AU member states to ratify and implement the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, Right of Residence, and Right of Establishment.
I believe all stakeholders need to work together to come up with specific measures and initiatives to improve the cost competitiveness of players in the sector. As you all may be aware, cost competitiveness is a major challenge of the manufacturing sector, and my ministry is working hard to improve the situation in various ways. For example, we are collaborating with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to lower the cost of gas, which is critical to the production of energy for the sector. This is one factor that can significantly impact the competitiveness of items manufactured in Nigeria.
Undoubtedly, industrialization is critical to the structural transformation of the continental economy, and the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is expected to provide the vehicle for fast-tracking industrial development. With AFCFTA, there will be opportunities for wider utilization of the resource endowments of the continent, efficient production system, and competitive enhancement. It is envisaged that the continental trade regime will create a common consumer base and market worth over 1.2 billion and $3 trillion market, respectively. It will also escalate business-to-business spendings in manufacturing, projected to reach $663 billion by 2030.
From the Ministry of Finance, the Minister, Zainab Ahmed, has stated that status of that Nigeria's gross domestic product growth, saying the nation's recorded fastest rate in 6 years by 5% in the second quarter of the year 2021. The minister who disclosed this in Abuja said the last time Nigeria recorded real GDP growth was in first quarter of 2014, when the economy grew by 5.94%. Ahmed, however, identified the major reason for increase in the GDP growth to be the reopening of the economy and borders, which have resulted in an improvement in the general economic activities in the country.
Real terms, resulting in the third consecutive quarter of growth since last year's economic recession. This is the strongest growth of GDP that the economy has recorded since the fourth quarter of 2014. The 2021 second quarter growth reflects much better economic performance compared to the same quarter last year, and this, the second quarter last year, if you recall, we had a negative growth of minus 6.10%. Furthermore, it was also better than the previous quarter, the last quarter just gone, first quarter of 2021. Year to date, the GDP growth, when you aggregate the first and the second quarter, is a growth rate of 2.7% in 2021.
Has been affected by COVID-19, not just in the area of medicine or healthcare. And every government in the world has divided and has devised systems and strategies to combat
all that is happening now, and from the improvement in the funding of government business, I think there is hope that the third quarter of this year certainly is going to record a very tremendous improvement. In managing an economy, you don't expect magic if there is no adequate funding of the economy. And so far so good, this year has been recording a timely release of the budgetary provision for all.
The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has said the state remains safe for business operations, allaying fears of insecurity. The governor said this while responding to fears by business stakeholders at the 7th edition of the Lagos Corporate Assembly tagged Boss Meets Business. He said the state government is abreast of the security situation and is taking all actions to guide against any unfortunate happenings. In our submission, the President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI, Toki Mabogunje, said the private sector has a central role in actualization of the vision of a mega city and making Lagos a 21st century economy.
Not only abandoned factories, a lot of abandoned properties. You know, we've done an enumeration of them. There are huge numbers of them, and I'm using this opportunity to tell everyone, you know, property owners that have been abandoned for years, that because his second question is around security, and what has happened, you know, from our investigation is that a lot of, you know, security issues also emanate from these abandoned properties. You know, a property that has been abandoned, that nobody's living there, it has considered a security risk to residents and to the businesses around these abandoned properties. So we're using this opportunity again to warn people to, if they cannot take over their property, they should sell them, right? Government will come very, very soon. We're going to be publicizing the picture, the location, and we're going to be giving you a deadline, after which we're going to evoke, you know, the land use, you know, powers that is there in the law, and we are going to be either lose the building completely or we'll bring down the building.
3 deal origination and consummation protocols create a dynamic online digital platform where the financialized and commercialized assets can be offered for investment. The Lagos Chamber hereby wishes to clarify that these recommendations do not connote the sale of national assets, but a mechanism to generate more revenue from the assets without their outright sale.
We shall be going for another break. When we come back, we'll give you focus for this week. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. This week, our guest on Business Today's Focus is Alhaji Aliko Dangote, the chairman Dangote Groups. Alhaji Dangote provides some insight into how African manufacturers can break even in the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that kicked off in January 2021. This was part of his submission at the month's high-level roundtable discussion on industrialization in Africa. Alhaji Dangote, drawing from your wealth of experience operating in about 15 African countries, how do you think the continent can develop globally competitive manufacturing industry?
Well, thank you very much. Well, really to be, globally competitive, we must produce very high quality product. We have to produce it at the cheapest cost possible, because this is clearly not easy, given that others have actually been there before us. If you look at like the Asian tigers. But it's never late, because this can actually be done. So what I think we need to do is to concentrate first in meeting our own domestic demand by producing high quality at a lowest price. If you do that, then you'll be able to export to other countries and also get their market. Because that is exactly what the Asian tigers did. They concentrated on their domestic market. They kept on improving on the quality and also the cost of whatever that they were, producing. Of course, initially we might need government support to make sure that, yes, we stabilize to be able to compete anywhere in the world. So I think government have to actually remove most of the hurdles in terms of infrastructure and friendly regulation, our ports, electricity. So there are so many things that which I think we need to, look at. I mean, if you look at it, for example, when we decided that we want to make Nigeria self-sufficient in cement, what we did was, first of all, to say, okay, fine, I know people will challenge us in terms of quality. So we started, investing heavily on technology to make sure that, yes, whatever that we want to produce in terms of quality, it is possible. In case the market is open up, so that we'll be able to compete. And then also about the pricing. So we did this, and that has actually given us a lot of edge by being able to go to markets where maybe a competitor in Cameroon that has been there for 50 years were able to take the market position because of what? Quality and price. So I think we need to do quite a lot in terms of, that, because if your price is not right, that's something that you can do. No matter what you do, nobody is going to, buy your product. So on building, when you look at it, we have already built that case in our cement. And that's the exact business that we want to do, business case we want to do in our own fertilizer, in our oil and gas, and in all the other products that we want to export to other African countries.
Within the context of the diverse manufacturing and trading regimes aimed at a variety of economic and political objectives on the continent, what is your advice to the AFCFTA managers towards enabling rapid cross-border business collaboration and competition?
When you look at it, really, given the potentials of the Africa free trade agreement, if you look at it today, what I think my own advice is that I think I would like to have everybody, all people who are involved, to actually speed up in terms of implementation. What I think they need to do, they need to make sure that they sit down and see how do we implement this, because there are still a lot of issues which they are still battling with, and I believe that they need to address those issues. And we need to also dig down and say, okay, fine, how come the other regional agreements were not working? Because if they are working, we wouldn't have been at 15%, intra-trade within Africa. So we need to look at those issues and say, okay, fine, why and what happened? And I think if you look at it, it is to do with a lot of issues like what you have said earlier on, during my discussion with you before this, fire chat. Today, it takes us 2 weeks to go to Ghana, something that was supposed to go in about 10, 12 hours. So when you look at it now, you invest in trucks, and you want to now take cement to Ghana, it takes you 2 weeks. You want to go to 298 kilometers, which is Lome, is going to take us, it's taking us today as we speak, about 10 days. So if that is the case, we're not going to be competitive. Then you are talking about gas. Our gas prices here are almost double than normal other areas. So how can we be competitive? So government has to do quite a lot in terms of having the political will to remove all these bottlenecks at the border. I mean, the borders are there, so why do you want to hold somebody going through the border, which yes, these are goods that we are allowed to pass. We have already signed agreements. So there are quite a lot of issues that we need to do. For example, today, if I want to go through the port, they will charge me $10 per ton. But I'm exporting a very cheap product and I'm just going to the next country. Why should I pay $10 per ton in terms of port charges? So I think there are quite a lot of areas that we need to look at. How do we make this thing competitive? So the border crossing is the most important one. We must make sure that crossing our borders does not take time. Because if it's going to take time, then it does not make sense at all. People would rather now ship from China straight into their own market. So we need to be very, very, careful. Similarly, when you look at it, today, every single border that you go to, you have different charges. So I think government needs to focus by removing all these impediments, all these barriers, and make sure that, yes, we have a very good flow of business. Because if you don't do that, we will never, ever be competitive. And the whole idea is for us now to improve and have this intra-trade to be almost at about 55 to 60%. So if it's going to be 55, 60%, we both need to work with government to make sure that we remove all these impediments. But these impediments, they actually do need a lot of political will. Some of the governments, they just go there, they sign an agreement. Let me give you a typical example. A lot of countries have actually now signed in preparation of the AFCTA, to have one African passport and co. Yes, I got African passport. A president of one particular country of, I don't want to mention the name, invited me to come and, see him. And I went there, they did not recognize that passport. Of course, they recognized it in South Africa, but not far away from South Africa, they said, no, well, you still have to have a visa. So the movement of goods, services, and people is still very, very, very tough. And for the Africa Free Trade Agreement to work, we have to remove all these impediments, and this needs a lot of political will.
There is a school of thought which argues that in the face of limited resources and the experience of other nations, Africans should consider identifying and supporting potential winners as the basis of an industrial strategy. What is your view on this?
Well, long before the AFCTA, we have always designed and planned to be an export-based company. What we did, if you notice, there are areas where now we used to import wheat to produce flour, pasta, and co. That business, we sold that business out because we are not going to be very competitive, because we rely on the international price of wheat. So anything that we cannot do a backward integration, or we will now do something to export, we are not going to touch. So what I keep telling people, because at first people thought that yes, we are not interested in Africa Free Trade Agreement. No, we're interested in the, the AFCTA because we're going to be the major beneficiaries. Number one, if you look at it today, we have fertilizer. We have the largest, fertilizer plant in, Africa. That's number one. So we will supply fertilizer all over. We are building the largest petrochemical, which is 900,000 tons of polypropylene. And we're also building 650,000 barrels of, oil refining per day. All this one is not for only Nigeria's market. It is actually mainly for sub-Saharan Africa because we don't produce these goods. All the other African countries are also importing their petroleum products. That is sub-Saharan Africa. And then when you look at it today, in cement, we have created huge capacity in terms of, export. We already have 2 terminals, one in Port Harcourt, one in Lagos, and they both have capacity of 8 million tons for us to be able to export, cement or clinker to a lot of other countries that are not, they are not lucky to have limestone. So it's something that we have here, okay, fine, despite our gas prices, despite even the port charges, we are still okay in terms of being competitive. So Dangote Group really, yes, we are very, very competitive because as we speak today, if we start all our exports, we'll be able to export more than $10 to $12 billion worth of goods. And that has actually put us as one of the highest, even in Africa, if not the...
I will leave you now to the graphics of today's trading on the Lagos floor of Nigeria Stock Exchange. Prices of commodities and other prices from industrial and precious metal. Till next time when I will be meeting you again, do remain blessed. I am Abiola Ismail.